Hello, this is Richard Law with the Society of Field Inspectors. I want to talk to you a little bit today about some of the common and some of the major mistakes that inspectors make in the field services industry. And we just held a four-day conference here, a four-day training event at Cape Canaveral, Florida. And I took the time and went through these most common mistakes. And I see these mistakes every day. Inspectors make the same mistakes. And some of the mistakes are simple, but when you start adding them up, they become cumulative. And these mistakes can kill a business. If you're not reliable, if you're not responsible, then companies learn that pretty quickly, and you'll be gone. They won't use you anymore. Your work will slow down, and then it'll just disappear. So what I want to do now is go through some of the mistakes that field inspectors make. And like I said before, I see these often. I see the same mistakes made day after day after day. And I'm talking about many years of accumulation, many years where I've observed these same mistakes time after time. And some of these or many of these may not apply to you. And I'm going through them with you so that if you are making this mistake, that you'll recognize it and that you'll correct it. Although in the cartoon figures here I show is a man, that does not mean that men are the only ones that make these mistakes. Women inspectors also make these mistakes. So I'm not trying to put all the mistakes on one sex, because both sexes make some of the same mistakes. One thing that's very important to know about the field services industry is that the field service firms hate babies. They hate the big babies that always need to be spoon-fed. They have to be told how to do everything. They don't know how to use the internet. They don't know how to communicate well. They have problems with uploads and downloads and photos. They have problems with communications. They're not responsive. They're not reliable, and they're just big babies. So if you're a big baby, you're probably not cut out to work in the field services industry, and you might try looking for some other job. One thing that I've noticed over the years is that some field service inspectors just have no focus. They have no plans for upward movement. And most of these inspectors are pretty much in the mortgage segment of the industry. They're stuck on the same level. They're not moving up. They have no idea of where to move to. They have no idea of where they can get training. And like I say, most of these inspectors are kind of stuck in the mortgage segment, which is the home of the low-fee $3 drive-by inspections. It's also the home of about 99% of the fraud in the industry. It's also the home of where a lot of inspectors are working for other inspectors, and that creates a lot of problems. And it's also the home of 99% of all of the game playing in the industry. You know, the chargebacks, putting the insurance burden onto the field inspector, requiring the field inspector to pay for a background check when 99% of the firms in the field services industry do not require the inspector to put up any money for a background check. So there's some real problems in that segment of the industry. The fees are low. There's no place that you can move up to, and you'll just stay at those rates forever and ever. They actually may even go lower because mortgage inspections paid more 15 years ago than they did today. So if you're going to advance in the world, advance in the field services industry, you certainly need to avoid the mortgage segment and the problems that come along with working in that segment. One of the large mistakes or common mistake for field inspectors is many of them don't do any networking. They are all alone. Usually every day when I'm talking to an inspector, I'll ask whoever I'm talking to if they've ever talked to another field inspector on the telephone, if they've ever done any telephone networking. And most often the answer is no. They've never talked to another inspector. They don't know another inspector. And networking is very important. You want to talk to other inspectors and you want to share information. You want to find out about their good customers, how much money they're making doing inspections, and you want to pass along some of your information to them to help them out. So networking is very important. You learn about the good companies, you learn about the bad companies, you learn about the ugly companies, and there are some out there. So it's very important that you communicate with other people that are doing the same thing that you are. And as part of our National Field Service Directory, we put out a National Field Service Directory. The paper part of that lists detailed information on the companies that would hire you to do work for them. And with that paper directory, we also provide a CD, and on that CD we list other field reps like yourself and provide all their detailed information. So the goal is to create some networking among field service representatives and to give you the information so that you can learn about other people and network with them, talk to them on the phone, and get information, because information is power. And you just want to be more informed about what's going on in the industry, and you'll have a much better experience out there. So again, networking is very, very, very important. And again, I would say that's a very, very, very common mistake. And most field inspectors just don't get involved with networking. Many field service representatives in the industry do absolutely no marketing, or if they do some marketing, it's not very organized. And many field service inspectors do no advertising. They don't get the word out on the type of services that they do offer. And that number is probably about 95%, maybe even a little bit higher. And those that do advertise usually do the best, okay? Those that don't advertise kind of barely survive. Some of them just get stuck with one customer that they work for, and they have to get the volume by covering a much larger area. Whereas the field inspectors that do advertise, they build up their clientele. If they're working full-time, they might work for 12 or 15 customers, and they keep their area small, and because they're working for a dozen or more companies, they create their volume in that small area by working for more companies, and they're more efficient and they make more money. And many inspectors just don't advertise. They don't call companies, they don't introduce themselves, they don't explain the services they offer. Many field service inspectors have absolutely no resume. They have no marketing plan. If they do have a resume, it's very poorly written. It contains a lot of text, a lot of noise, and they don't get down to the main points of
of who they are and what they do and where they do it. So if you're going to get ahead in any business, not just the field services business, you got to have a great resume, and you also need to have some great marketing and do some advertising. As I mentioned, a lot of field inspectors have no resume. Some of those that do have a very poor resume. And often I see a resume that's not even adapted to the field services industry. I've seen resumes where people were looking for inspection jobs, but they never made a mention of their service area. In the resume, they never made a mention of, some of the general services that they offer. And some of the resume contains lots of noise. And what I call noise is a lot of fine print text, a lot of descriptions of jobs or experience or education that really doesn't apply to getting a job in the field services industry. The companies don't really care too much that you were a scout leader. What they really want to know is how to get a hold of you. They want to know what area you service. Where are you at? What do you do? Which counties, what cities, and what type of inspections do you perform? And if you have the experience, discuss it, related experience. If you don't have experience, then you need to be silent on the matter. But like I say, having a resume is very important. I can't imagine anyone being serious about their work and serious about growing their business and not have a resume. The two just don't go hand in hand. If you're serious about growing your business, you have to have a resume, and it has to be a great resume. At SOFI, we have a National Field Service directory, and all those listings in the directory are without charge. Becoming a member of SOFI is free. We don't charge for that membership. And when you fill out the form at www.joinsofi.com, we'll take that information and put that in the directory. And the first time we put you in there, we'll go ahead and send that information out to some companies, national companies and regional companies that subscribe and that want to know that information. So that will help you get started. And the directory is good for a lifetime, I guess you might say, as long as you keep it updated. In other words, we expect to hear from you from time to time, telling us that things have not changed, that you're at the same address, you have the same email, you have the same telephone number, that you're doing the same things. And also if you've added some qualifications, if you've gotten some training, if you've gotten some experience, then we hope that you'll let us know about that also, so that we can update your listing in the directory. And that'll help you get jobs. Now we find that a lot of field inspectors, they sign up, but then they do nothing afterwards, and we don't hear from them. They don't update their listings, and things change. Maybe their phone number changes, maybe their email changes. We don't get the word, and of course when companies try to email them or call them from our directory, then of course they get a bad number or a bounced email, and they just move on to the next inspector. So it's very important that these listings be updated. After a certain period of time, if you don't update your listing, we just delete it from our directory. Or if we send you an email or try to call you and can't get through, then we'll also delete your listing from the directory. So it's very important that you keep that up to date. And then again, like I say, that's a common mistake for a lot of field inspectors. They just don't take the time, and their directory listing expires, and they're out of there. And then even though they are looking for jobs, the the companies don't know that they're still available. In the mortgage segment of the industry, there seems to be a lot of inspectors working for other inspectors. You don't find that too much in the commercial segment or in the insurance segment. It's primarily a feature of the mortgage segment. And the mortgage segment is also the home of the low fee mortgage inspections. The average mortgage inspection today pays probably around $3 or $4. And those inspections paid a lot more 15 years ago than they do today. And back, 15 years ago, you very seldom had to take a photograph. If you did, it was maybe 1 or 2 photographs if you found a damaged property. Maybe a gutter falling off or a piece of siding ripped or a broken window or something like that. And you were actually paid for those photos 15 years ago, about $1.50 each. So today the fees are lower. You're making much lower than you did 15 years ago. And the photo requirements can be as high as many as 8 photos for each of these $3 or $4 inspections. And also the mortgage segment is the home of 99% of all the fraud and 99% of all the games played in the industry. So it's really not a good place to begin with. And then if you really, really, really want to complicate it, if you really, really, really want to increase your risk, then work for another mortgage inspector, because a lot of them just don't have any capital. They don't have any money in their bank account. If they don't get paid by their customer, you don't get paid. And believe me, that happens quite frequently. So my advice to field inspectors is to stay away from the $3, $4 mortgage inspections. Do not work for another mortgage inspector, or you will have some serious problems. And there's nothing worse than having a job and not getting paid. So again, this is just a warning to stay away from the low fee stuff. You won't make any money doing it. You're just going to wear out your car, and then working for another inspector, you just may not even get paid. When you're in the service industry, like field services, you need to have a good communication system. You need to have a telephone, and you need to have a telephone where you can accept voicemail messages if you're not there to answer the phone. And then when you do get a message, you need to respond quickly. Many of these companies need a quick turnaround on some of these inspections, and they're hoping that when they call you and talk to you, or not talk to you, but leave a message for you, that you'll respond to them within a reasonable amount of time. So not responding to voicemail messages is a problem, a timely response. And the other problem is having a voicemail box that's full, so they can't even leave a message for you. And let me tell you what happens, when you get lazy and just decide not to filter out the messages in your voicemail box. When the company calls you, they're going to hear that your mailbox is full message, and they're never going to call you again. Even though you fix it tomorrow, they won't know that you've cleared your mailbox, because they've decided that you're just not responsive. You don't even care to respond, and they're not going to call you again. So fill up the mailbox, keep it full, make sure the message is always there, that it's full, and of course you're not going to get any messages, and they're not even going to try to call you at any other time too. So that's going to kill your business. So make sure that doesn't happen to you. Another major mistake that some field inspectors have is just poor communications, poor telephone communications. When they answer the phone, if someone calls them and they answer the phone, they don't even answer with their name. A lot of the times when they do answer, everything they say is garbled. They don't take their time to think about what they're going to say, and they don't say it in a very clear voice. The other thing is some of these inspectors are just fast talkers. They just talk too fast, and a lot of the words just kind of get lost in the conversation. Many field inspectors are not focused. They say things, but they don't have a good meaning. They don't ring true. They don't sound organized. And then I talked to a lot of other inspectors where the conversation keeps going in a circle. I call it circular communications. They start talking about something, and then they'll talk about something else, and then they'll come back to the first thing they started talking about. And problems just don't get resolved, and they just kind of stay in a circular field, and not much is accomplished during the conversation. So communications is very, very important. And when you answer your phone, I think giving someone on the other end your name is very important. And talking slow and being focused, I think, is very important. And it will make a difference on whether you get the job or you don't get the job. Communications is something that's very important, and you need to improve on that every day. So be sure to pay attention to what you say on the phone, and you might even want to talk to yourself in the mirror when you call a company, before you call a company, so that you can get focused on what you're going to say, and that you get to the point very quickly, and that you introduce yourself properly and describe the services you can offer, and try and get across that you're a very proficient person that can get the job done. One of the very big problems with some field inspectors, they just don't follow directions, whether it's verbal directions or written directions. Maybe they have instructions on how to do the work, how to complete the form, how many photos are required, what type of photos, and somehow they just don't read the information. It's there, but it's not read. Maybe they're just speeding through it too quickly. Oftentimes I'll send out emails and ask someone to do a specific thing, like maybe provide me with an update on something. And to make it easier for me, I'll suggest to them that when they respond to me in an email, that they put a specific word or words in the subject line. If I'm looking for an update, I may ask them to put the word update all by itself in the subject line, so that I will see it and recognize it and respond to it. And I find that even a simple request, a very simple request on just what word or words to put in the subject line, and underline it, bold it, highlight it, and still it gets screwed up. So following directions is very important. And when you're working for a company, if they discover very early on that you're the type of person that doesn't read and doesn't follow directions, you're going to get dropped very quickly, because these companies are looking for reliable people. And going back to the first thing that we talked about, they don't want to hire babies. They can't follow directions, and it's not their position in life to kind of train you every day on how to do things and bring you up to speed. So following directions is very, very important. So make sure you read the directions very carefully. Make sure you understand them. And if you don't understand them, you need to ask some questions before you get heading down the road and make a lot of mistakes. Well, here we are. I don't know how many people are still with me here and still listening to what I'm saying. I'm sure I've run into some thin-skinned people out there who just don't want to learn anything or just kind of check how they're doing. and so they've probably left us here, and hopefully I've got some others of you kind of following along that are wanting to learn about the mistakes that others make, so that you don't make the same mistake. And if you're a person that's not making a lot of mistakes, you'll certainly make more money and have an easier job than those who are making mistakes at every turn. To really help you out and bring you up to speed on how to do the work, how to do the marketing, how to communicate with your customers, how to follow directions, we have SOFI University. And SOFI University is a password university, but the password is available to anyone who purchases any product at the SOFI store at sofistore.com. And what we've done over the years is we put together up there a lot of documents, help documents, a lot of audios, a lot of videos, with the express purpose of helping you understand what's going on in the industry, to make you smarter, to help you get a faster start, to help you make smart decisions, and just to make more money in the long run. So you should spend some time up at SOFI University and go through all the information up there, because it certainly will help you. I know some people get started and they kind of bypass that for some reason, and that's the place where you want to go. You don't have to spend all day every day up there, but you need to spend a little time up there each and every day and learn about things, learn about marketing, learn about what to say and not to say in a phone call, learn about what to put in a resume, what not to put in a resume, learn the important features of things that should go in a resume. So there's a lot of things you can do to make your business grow faster and help you make money. So be sure to go up there and take a look at that. I find that many field service inspectors are just not very responsive at all to customer emails. The customer will send them an email asking maybe for some help, maybe asking if they cover an area, maybe asking if they're available to do a rush inspection, and they expect a reply within a reasonable time. If they send it to you today, they don't want to, today being Monday, let's say, they don't want to wait till Thursday to hear back from you. They're expecting a response on the same day, or at the latest early the next day. And responsiveness to customer emails is a very huge problem. I send out a lot of emails to field service inspectors, and sometimes I'll just ask them to respond and just let me know they got it. I'll send out a draft of a resume, and I'll say, just come back to me and let me know you got it. It's okay, so I don't have to worry about whether you received it or not. And some starting field inspectors won't even give me that courtesy. They just won't respond, and then I have to email them again and say, hey, did you receive the draft? And email them again and say, did you receive the draft? And email them again and say, did you receive the draft? Now when I have to do that, for me, that's a very big indicator of how well they're going to do in the field services industry. When you're a new inspector, I can tell within 3 or 4 days how you're going to do, depending on how responsive you are and how reliable you are. So again, the emails and responding to those are very, very, very important. And if you can't do that, if you can't provide a service, if you can't respond to things quickly, and everyone now has email on their smartphones, so it's not like you're sitting in front of a computer all day. But if you can't respond and say, hey, I got it, I'll get back with you in an hour with an email, or I'll call you in an hour, and if you can't do that, then they don't want to hire you, because they know that you're going to be a problem all the time. And again, like I said right at the beginning of this, they just don't want a lot of babies. If you're an adult, you need to act like an adult, and you need to be responsive. And again, what I'm saying doesn't fit everyone. I know it fits some, but if you're kind of even close to that, you might want to, change how you operate. And if you make some changes, we all make mistakes. We all do things that we can do better. And if you can learn from this and create better responses, you'll just do so much better. I find that sometimes when I send out something and I ask for a response and I don't get it, I'll often follow up with something like this little cartoon here, or it says, "I'm holding my breath, waiting for your response." And even when they get that, sometimes they don't respond. So I'm trying to get their attention, and I'm trying to tell them that, hey, you need to respond to some things if you're expect to be in business and make any money. And still, even with sending that out, I often will not get a response. I also find that when I send out emails and don't get a response, that if I send out the threat that if they don't respond, I'm going to kill the duck, oftentimes that will get a response. I'm surprised. You kind of have to put a graphic in there and threaten to kill that little duck if they don't respond. It's just a rubber duck, so it's not a real duck, but still it's a duck. And that revolver is pointed right at the duck's head. And like I say, if you don't respond, I'm going to kill the duck. And that seems to work. So not all the time, but much of the time. And again, it just kind of proves that you have to really work hard sometimes to get a response. And if it's a company that wants to talk to you about work, they're not going to fool around with you. They're going to think you're just a big baby, and they're gonna move on very quickly to another inspector. They just don't have the time to waste with you. So if you're the person that's very slow on your email communications or your voicemail communications or any of your communications, you need to make some corrections and fix that, or find something else to do, because you're not going to make it in field services. As I said earlier, I design a lot of resumes, and when I send out the resume, I ask them for a response, just that they receive it. They don't have to review it right then, but just that they have it. So I know that I sent it to the right email, that I didn't make a typo in the email, that they in fact got it, because they don't want to wait a week and then find out they didn't get it, okay? That maybe I made a mistake, or maybe it went in the spam and they just never received it. So again, sending out the threat that I will kill the duck gets me a little bit better response on getting responses to resume designs, but it doesn't always work. And like I said earlier too, I can pretty much figure out after just 3 or 4 emails to you on how well you're going to do in the field services industry. It's a service industry, and if you don't provide service, if you don't respond, if you're not reliable, you're just not going to get the work. Probably over about the last 5 or 7 years now, we've been using a service that helps us determine what's been happening with the emails that we send out, and it's a paid service that we use. And what the provider does is he communicates electronically with the server of where we've sent the message to, and you'd be surprised at the amount of information we'll get back on that. It'll tell us actually the date and the time that the email we sent was opened and read. It'll tell us the IP address of the reader. It'll tell us the type of device on which the email was read, whether it was a smartphone or a laptop. It'll tell us the device operating system, whether it's Android or iPhone or Windows 7 or Windows XP. It'll tell us the number of times the email was opened. I'm surprised that sometimes I'll see that an email was opened 10 or 15 times. and yet we never got a requested response back saying that they even received it. And this was someone that's maybe having a resume designed for us and was, expecting to get a service. So it'll tell us the times it was open. It'll tell us the time that the email was actually viewed, how long they looked at it each time that they opened it. And it will also tell us if the email is forwarded. Sometimes someone will get it on their smartphone and they'll forward it to their laptop or to their desktop. So we get some information there, and it's a pretty reliable system. But then it just shows us that people are getting the message and they're not responding. And it just says, again, a lot about them and how well they're going to do in the industry. Bouncing emails or email accounts that are over quota can be a big problem. We don't see this too much anymore because the service providers like Yahoo and Google are giving people just more and more storage capability. So if you went back probably 5-10 years ago, you saw a lot of email accounts that went over quota, but today you don't see that happening too much, but you still do see it happen, and it's important not to let that happen. And bouncing emails, something's changed. When you get an email, it's best if you can keep that same email for your entire life, because if you change your emails a lot, it's going to be hard for companies to kind of keep track of you. And if you forget to tell them what your new email is, how are they going to know what it is? Like I say, the companies don't fool around a lot. If your email bounces, if your account's over quota, if your voice mailbox is full, if you're just not responding, they just dump you. There are others out there that can replace you, and you're considered to be the big baby. You're the high maintenance person. And they just decide to move on. They don't use you, and after a while, no one's using you, and you just have to think about, another way of getting some work and making some money to pay your bills. At SOFI, we have a large membership, a large number of members of SOFI, and what we find is we get a lot of spam, and the way we're getting spam is some of those members, have Yahoo accounts or Gmail accounts, and some spammer will send them an email and say, hey, you need to update your information with us. We need to make sure your password is still correct, and you'll go up to one of these sites, and someone will get your email password for Yahoo or Gmail or whatever you use, and then they'll start sending out spam messages using your account. And we see that an awful lot, I would say. And it's easy to recognize because it is spam. We recognize some of the names of the inspectors that we've talked to before. So you got to be very careful that your email doesn't get hacked. And the way it usually gets hacked with Gmail and Yahoo is that they're figuring out a way to get your password. They're not, trying to figure out what your birthday is, your maiden name, or how old you are, and what your password is. You're giving it to them, and they're using that to send out spam. So you gotta be careful on what you do there. Let's talk just a little bit about Craigslist, and I kind of call that the candy store for a lot of criminals that kind of hang out there. And the type of jobs that you see posted at Craigslist, it's usually not the commercial inspections, which are higher fees, or the insurance inspections, which are kind of medium fees. What you see up at Craigslist primarily is mortgage companies, or primarily other mortgage inspectors posting messages up there saying they're looking for mortgage field service inspectors. And usually with these Craigslist, you never get a company name, you never get the name of a real person, you never get a phone number, they never tell you how much they're paying. all they do is give you the promise of a lot of work, and again, they don't say anything about the fees. And some of these inspectors that will hire you again, won't pay you. That maybe they won't get paid, and they won't pay you. So Craigslist is probably a good place to stay away from. You'll find that the really solid national companies that pay the higher fees and have the better quality work just don't use Craigslist. They have other ways. They don't have any problems usually finding reps. And so Craigslist, you got to really be careful up there, because like I say, what's worse than not having a job is having a job and not getting paid. I keep going back to the mortgage inspections, because they are the home of the low fee inspections, the $3-4 stuff. They're also the home of 99% of the fraud in the industry. They're also the home of 99% of all the game players in the industry. The companies are going to require you to, pay for insurance up front, to pay for a background check. And they may even have chargebacks. If you make a simple mistake, they may charge you, $100 or more to have somebody else to fix the problem. So it's a place you want to kind of stay away from. And the other thing is, when you get so busy running around town doing all these $3 mortgage inspections, you're kind of wearing out your car and you're using up a lot of your time. And when I say a $3 mortgage inspection, when you subtract your expenses from that, maybe you're making $1.50. And like I say, you're probably taking 7 or 8 photos that you have to manage for every one of those. And when you're out doing $3 mortgage inspections, you're not spending any time on marketing. You're not learning about any of the companies that are higher quality, that pay the higher fees. Maybe you're ignoring some of the $20, $30, $40, $50 inspections. You're not very diversified. You probably have one customer. And usually with these mortgage companies, when they hire you, they start looking for your replacement the same day, because they're looking for someone that'll do that $3 mortgage inspection for $2.50. So the mortgage inspections is really not the place to be, and you need to learn that up front. And like I say, there's a lot of higher quality companies out there that pay higher fees, and you certainly need to get connected with some of them. Yeah, let me say this again too, that changing emails is a big problem. There's some people have just too many email addresses. Sometimes we'll get someone that become a member of SOFI today. They'll join SOFI today, and then tomorrow we'll get an email from them to say that they've already changed their email address. Okay. We also have situations where, I've talked to people, I send them an email, and then I maybe call them and I ask them how come they didn't get the email, and maybe find out that they've got as many as 5 email addresses. And the message I sent to the one email, the response says, well, we don't often read that email, pick up messages going to that email address. So changing too often and having too many email addresses is a huge problem. Unprofessional or confusing email addresses is another problem. I've seen, this is true emails, I've seen emails, one email that was couch potato. I'm not sure which one was at Hotmail or Yahoo or Gmail or one of those, but the first part of it was couch potato. And then the question I ask when I would see that is, who in business would hire a couch potato? A couch potato is someone that's kind of on the couch all day. They're certainly not out in the field. So who would hire them? I had another email that was EIO, EIO, EIO. Old MacDonald had a farm, EIEIO. Well, that's pretty confusing. How many E's and how many I's go in there and how many O's. And so I wouldn't have an email that looked anything like that. I would avoid O's and zeros and I's and L's and ones, because those can be confusing. I find some people don't even use their name. They use someone else's name. You know, I get an email from Kathy and she's using Kim at AOL.com. You know, what's that all about? You know, why aren't people using their names? I could see if they had a nickname or something, but Kathy's not a nickname for Kim. Okay, Kim is probably a nickname for Kimberly. Kathy is probably a nickname for Kathleen. So I don't think Kathleen and Kimberly are the same person. So why is there a difference in the emails? I have no idea, but it confuses me and it makes me suspect, and I don't know. I just don't know. You know, as far as you know, living in the world here, we all want to advance. We all want to move to higher levels. I think the goal for most people is to move to a higher level, to make more money, maybe to work in a job where you enjoy working and doing the job. But again, I find that there's some people that just have no plan to move to higher levels. They don't want to even hear about higher levels. They're kind of happy doing what they're doing, and they get no training. They don't move to they don't advance. They kind of have a salary that doesn't change much every year, and they're doing the same job, and a lot of them just don't even like what they're doing. You know, they're just still doing the same job. So I think every once in a while you need to stand back and kind of see where you're at and where you're going, and see if there's maybe something else you can do, and maybe with a little training you can get there. So again, I think in life you need to be moving up, and in field services there's a lot of areas where you can move up to higher levels. But you know, going back to the mortgage segment, that's probably the area where there is no higher level. You're kind of stuck at one level, and if you stay there for 10 or 15 years, you're not going to see any salary increases or any real advancement. So we're still moving along, and I'm sure that some of the really thin-skinned people who maybe we were talking about have left. Okay, but there's still some problems, and you need to be aware of these, and if they fit you, you need to correct the problem. Computer skills are very important. You need to know how to use a computer. You need to know how to use the internet. You need to know how to use a smartphone, cameras. So those are all very important. You need to know with computer skills, you need to know how to do downloads. You need to know how to do uploads. You need to know how to work with PDF documents, and when you work with PDF documents, you need to make sure you've got the most recent copy of the Adobe Acrobat application, and that's a free application you can get up at www.adobe.com. And if you don't have the latest version of Acrobat Reader on, you may not be able to open up a PDF document because your version is not up to date. And then if that happens, you know, you're not going to think about updating it. You're probably going to call your customer and complain that it won't open, and they're going to tell you to update your Adobe Acrobat Reader, and they're going to wonder why you didn't figure that one out on your own. Some people don't know how to do simple things like just a search. You know, sometimes if they have an address for www.irs.gov, instead of putting that in the address bar, they'll maybe do a search on it. So when you have a web domain, you need to put that in your address bar and just go directly there. And the only time you do searches is when you don't know where to go. So again, you know, poor computer skills, companies will identify that very early, and whether you get more or more work from them will depend upon how good you are at handling a computer and communications and the internet.
I talk to a lot of field service inspectors that have problems with computers. They have a computer that somehow gets loaded with malware and viruses. The computer's running slow. It eventually crashes. They lose files. It takes time to reboot the computer. And again, I would say probably 95%, maybe even more, of field service reps do not have any virus protection or malware protection on their computer. And that creates a lot of serious problems. If your computer is down for, a week, you're kind of out of a job. Your work starts becoming late. The company stops sending you work because you're not turning it around on time. And having a computer that's infected with malware and viruses can really hurt your business. So go to Amazon or go online someplace and get some protection on your computer and use it. Use it all the time, and make sure you back up your computer so that if it should fail, at least you've got, because of a hardware problem, a drive that crashes, at least you can get back up within a couple hours, and again, not have to wait a week or so for someone to solve the problem for you. It's easy to do. Learn how to do it.
Backing up your computer is easy to do. There's plenty of good software out there. We use a application for the Macintosh, but it also works on a PC, which is Carbon Copy Cloner. And like I say, it'll clone everything on your hard drive, and if you have a failure, you'll be able to boot off your backup drive and get back in operation within probably about an hour or two. If you don't have that, you've got a lot of real problems. And you certainly don't want to lose your files, and you certainly don't want to have your customer bypassing you. So be sure to back up your computer. And there's a couple ways to do that, and I think I'll discuss that here in the next slide. Probably 2 ways to back up your computer is with cloud storage or an external hard drive. I prefer an external hard drive because the information is sitting right there, and if you have to boot from a hard drive, like I say, you can be up and running again in probably about an hour, maybe a little bit longer. If it's up there in cloud storage, maybe that's good for storing some of their files, but if you have your operating system up there for your computer, your Windows 7 or whatever you use, really you got more problems in getting that computer rebooted. So I would say probably the best way, you could probably have both too. You could have an external hard drive and cloud storage. And the hard drives are getting cheaper and cheaper. You can get a 1 terabyte hard drive probably for around $50. And so it's cheap, it's easy to use, and like I say, a hard drive with something like Carbon Copy Cloner will get you up and running very quickly. And like I say, if you fool around, you can't get it going, and you're a week getting your system back up again, you've lost a lot of your own time, and the company that's been using you is probably going to look elsewhere for help. Yeah, as I said, the backups are important. You need to have a backup of your whole system, and then you've probably got some important files, maybe some photographs, maybe some other documents that you in your personal documents, your business documents, that it might be a good idea just to store in the cloud. There's a lot of free storage areas up there in the cloud. We use a system called box.com, which is very good. And like I say, you need to have some of your more important documents, backed up in the cloud so that you just don't lose them, both your business and your personal documents. I'll just let you read this slide, but what it says basically is that backups are mandatory, and if you don't have one, you can lose a lot of data. You can lose a lot of precious data. You can lose a lot of time, and that will cost you money. And sometimes you don't even have to have a crash. You may just delete some files, or it may be that you get a virus of some kind in there. We use the Apple Macintosh system here in our office. All our Apple computers are networked, and we find that the Apple is just a more secure operating system than a Windows system is. We do run antivirus and malware stuff, and we haven't had any problems ever. And so that's very important. So maybe the next time you upgrade your PC or your laptop or your desktop, you might want to think about a Macintosh, because I think you'll find it's just a better machine which has better security than a system with the Windows operating system. I would say, after talking to field inspectors, that I would probably say 9 out of 10 field reps are without any type of virus protection. They're just operating, I guess what you might say, in a bare mode. In the Windows stuff is very vulnerable, and I've read articles where if you get a new Windows computer, a new computer with Windows on it, and you don't have any antivirus software, you're probably infected with some things within a week or two if you're connected to the internet. So again, be very cautious. Get the protection you need for both virus and spyware and malware. Everyone makes typos. I make typos, some grammar areas, but I try to avoid misspelled words, and there's a lot of services available, Word, PowerPoint, Google, Yahoo. They help you get by making misspellings, okay, and correcting grammar and correcting typos. So you need to use all the services you can to help you out, and still mistakes are made. But if you spell a word wrong and it doesn't look like a typo, it may look like you were just too lazy to look it up. Or if you used two different words like weather in the wrong way, that kind of makes you look uneducated. So it's important to make sure that you avoid typos when you can. Everyone makes some, but certainly make sure you spell words right, and make sure your grammar is pretty close to what it should be. Time management is pretty important. You need to manage your time properly. When you're doing inspections, the stuff you get today, you don't necessarily go out and do tomorrow. You kind of wait a little bit and kind of hoping to get some more in the same area so that you can go out and do, multiple inspections in the same area. You got to be careful you don't wait too long, because you don't want the inspections to be late. So you have to manage your time. You have to look at the weather, whether storms are coming up. If there's a storm coming up and it's going to affect you, you probably also need to talk to your customer and let them know what's happening. You may be in Michigan and they may be in Boca Raton, Florida, where it's sunny, and you're getting a big snowstorm, so they may not even know about it. So keep them up to speed as to bad weather. If something comes up and you're going to be an extra day getting it done, make sure you give them some notice on that. But time management is very important. And when you start being late quite often, you're going to start seeing where your work's going to start going away. It's important that you do some networking. It's important that you talk to other inspectors. It's important that you learn from other people's mistakes. I think that some people were put in this world to make mistakes so that the rest of us could learn from them. And don't get into the habit of thinking, someone else is working for a company and that company's not paying, or there's a lot of real problems at a company, and you hear about it and you take the position that it won't happen to me. It probably will happen to you, and you'll just be a member of the same crowd that was, mistreated or wasn't paid or whatever. So don't repeat mistakes when you know about them that others have made, and don't get into the habit of thinking, hey, I can do it and I won't be affected, because you probably will. Learn how to say no. You're not going to accept all jobs at the fee offered, and learn how to negotiate. If you go up to Amazon, there's a lot of books up there on negotiation skills, or so maybe it's time to pick one up there, or go to the library. Always do the math. Make sure that before you accept a job that depending on the location and the amount of time on site and everything else, that the math is going to work out, that you're going to make some money. I used to tell people when they were starting out to just say no to the first 2 job offers, just so that you get into the habit or learn how to say no. And then as I was doing that, I found out that some of the offers were pretty good, so that probably was not a good idea. So I'm not going to tell you to say no to the first 2 job offers, but I will tell you to say no when you do the math and there's no money to be made. You can't be doing a lot of people favors. You have to make money. So always do the math. Make sure that there's some profit to be made before you accept the job. If the money's not there, ask for more. If they can't provide that, you're going to have to say no and just walk away from it. Because like I say, you have to make money in everything you do. As I said, negotiation is very important. Remember, the company that wants you to do the job, they've got to get the job done. They can't just ignore their client. So they have to get it done. And they're going to have to find somebody to do it. If they don't use you, they're going to have to find somebody else. So what you need to do is just go through the math with them. Explain to them how you got to the price that you're asking. And, how far the property is, what's involved, what the traffic situation is like on the road there, and tell them how you arrived at your number, and then keep explaining to them that, hey, I can get the job done, but if you kind of fool around with this too long looking for somebody else, the job's going to be late. And like I say, the library's got a lot of good books. Amazon's got over 33,000 books that you'll find just on the search word negotiation. So the more you can learn about that in business, it'll help you throughout your life and everything you do, and help you make more money and help you be a happier person. So know when to say no, know how to do the math, and pick up some negotiation skills. So before you start work for any company, you need, of course, find out more about them, what they offer, what they pay, if there's any upfront cost. And usually with most of the inspections, there are no upfront costs except for the mortgage segment. And there you're talking maybe $1,265 paid up front to get started doing $3 mortgage inspections. Whereas at the higher quality commercial and insurance companies, about 95% of them don't ask you for any insurance, and they don't ask you to pay for any background checks. So that's probably the place to be. No matter who the company is, you need to look at their record, their credit record up at the Better Business Bureau. You need to do a little research, go up online and see if they have a website. Go up to glassdoor.com and look for any postings up there from either staff personnel or independent contractors about the company. You can always ask for references. Give me the names of 5 other inspectors that work for you, and then call them. If they don't want to give you references, that might be a red flag. Do some networking. Like I said earlier, when you do the networking, that's going to help you find out about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then ask some questions, detailed questions on what they do, how long they've been doing it, and that type stuff, and that'll help you out.
Okay, here we are. We finally got to the end. I'm sure that some people dropped out very early, and some probably stayed a little bit longer, and some of you may have stayed till the end. But what I did is, in very frank terms, I went together what I did is, in very frank terms, is I discussed a lot of the problems that inspectors have in the field services industry, and the things they do wrong, and the things that affect their business, and a lot of these things can affect it significantly. The field services industry is a good industry. There's a lot of opportunity to be gained there. There's money to be made there, but you have to be into the right areas of the industry. The commercial and the insurance segments are probably the best two. The mortgage segment is obviously the worst, if you've been listening to what I've been saying here. So that's what you want to do, is you want to move towards the commercial and insurance segments. And there's also levels, higher levels that you can move up to. And that's very important when you're mapping out a career. If you have any questions on anything that I've discussed here today, or if you just want to chat about the field services industry, give me a call. You can reach me at area code 321-543-2809. Be sure to go up and read the SOFI blogs. We have a blog at sofiblog.com. We also have another blog devoted to the mortgage segment, and that is mortgagehorror.com. That's mortgage, HORROR.com. And for those of you that want to move up to higher levels in the insurance industry, the commercial side of the house, there's also a blog at losscontrolblog.com, and that'll tell you what the loss control industry is all about for commercial properties, and it'll also give you some tips on how to perform those type inspections. Usually, or not usually, but almost always, those are going to require that you get some training, maybe 3, 4, or 5 days of training, reading some manuals, watching some videos on flash drives can bring you up to speed and introduce you to that and get you started with some of the entry-level inspections. So like I say, if you want to chat, give me a call, and we can kind of go through some things together, and we can answer any questions you might have. So thank you for staying with me throughout this presentation, and I hope you learn from it, and give us some feedback so that we can make things better in the future. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day.